Hi, my name is Brenysha Jimerson. I'm 27 years old. I'm from Hopkinsville, Kentucky, and I've been in Las Vegas for 12 years. Growing up, it was just me, my mom, my sister, and my brother. My dad was killed when I was 3 years old. They shot my dad 17 times and chopped his body up and threw it in the mountains. So growing up, like, I always felt like, the outcast. Like, I felt like I was by myself. So, like, I was bullied a lot growing up in school. And so, I became real defensive. It was like, okay, you're going to talk about me, I'm going to beat you up. Like, so once I got to, fast forward, let's say, ninth grade, I ended up meeting a boy, 15, in the ninth grade. I ended up getting pregnant with my daughter. My mom, my brothers, my grandma, everybody was like, I was too young to have a daughter. Everybody was telling me I should get an abortion. I had my first ultrasound at an abortion clinic. I remember the lady asked me, like, did I want to know how far along I was? I was 9 weeks old. I was 9 weeks. And for me, I fought for my baby because I always said, like, I didn't believe in abortions. And so, like, they did my ultrasound. They let me go sit back in the waiting room. Was like, I'll call you back. And then when I came back, my mom was crying, and she just was like, if you want to have your baby, I can't make you kill your baby, but it's going to be your baby. So I was like, okay. So from that point on, like, to me, it was like, okay, I have to make sure my baby is okay. So I always had a job, multiple jobs. I moved out of my mom's house, like, as soon as I turned 18, it was like, I was like, deuces, I'm gone. I got my own place, and I just worked hard no matter what. Like, fast forward to now, I'm like 21, still in my own place, or I was about to turn 21. I was still in my own place and everything, and at the time I was working 3 jobs. I remember I worked at Kids Quest, which is a daycare. I worked at Mini Grand Prix, and I was working at Wendy's all at the same time. And then it just seemed like everything started to just turn at one time. Like, I just felt like I lost one job, another job got closed, and me being so independent, and I don't like to ask for help. Like, I'll struggle before I ask for help. So my mind always kick into sink or swim, and I'd be like, I refuse to sink because I have somebody else dependent on me. At the time, like, all of my friends was pimps and prostitutes at the time. Like, I was the one that would watch all of my friends' kids while they would go out. And it was just like, it came to the first time in my life, I didn't have a job. Like, I didn't know how I was gonna pay my bills. Like, I didn't know how I was gonna make a way for my daughter. And I recall, like, one of my friends was like, you should just go out with me one time. Like, you got a responsibility. So I was like, okay. I went out with her one night, and I was just like, I was so nervous. I was like, I made up an excuse, and I was like, oh, my cousin's car broke down. I gotta go home. So then the next day, her boyfriend was like, oh, you gotta pay your car note. Like, so, like, you gotta do this, like, or whatever. So I'm like, okay. So we went to the Strip. And I remember we was inside of the Palazzo Hotel, and my friend was just like telling me, like, okay, this is how you know who want to talk to you, or if they looking at you and all this stuff. And she was just like, oh, go talk to this guy, like, he's staring at you. So I talked to the dude, and I remember the first time ever, it was something quick, fast, and it was just like, I went and talked to the man, and I believe it was like oral sex for like $300. Like, and I was just like, and my mom like, I just made $300 in under 5 minutes. And I was like, okay. And I was like, this is just gonna be something temporary until I can get back on my feet. And I kept doing it, was going out, was making cool little amount of money, $500, $600, you know, every night that I would go out. And then I remember one time inside of the Venetian Hotel, me and my friend, we ended up going upstairs, and it was an undercover officer. And I ended up going to jail for solicitation, prostitution. And in my, like, at the time it was just like, my friend had my daughter, and I called him like, oh, my friend gonna come pick up my daughter, I'm in jail, like, don't tell nobody. And he accidentally slipped up and said something to my brother while my brother was cutting his hair. And next thing I knew, like, my mom and all them was calling up to the jail, like we just want to know where the baby is and everything. So now I'm just like, oh, my mama and them know what I was doing. But for me, I was always an open person, so I would always joke, but they thought I was just joking, but I was serious. Like, my mama would be like, where are you going? I used to be like, going to see a white man about a horse. And she never thought I was serious with what I was saying, but, you know, I was serious. And so, like, now it was like, after that, I was so afraid to, you know, to go see my mom, to go see my grandma, because it was like, they knew. Me and my brother, out of all of, like, me and my family, me and my brother has had the closest relationship. And I remember once my brother found out, my brother didn't speak to me for like a whole year. Like, I would look at him and I would like, be like, hi, and he'd be like, why are you talking to me? And then eventually I was doing it by myself. And then a guy I was dating basically was just like, okay, why don't you just, you know, basically work for me? I was like, okay, I'm like, this is somebody I've been in a relationship with for a while. And once I entered that field, everything just changed. I can recall one day I was just like, I was ready to go home. I was like, you know, had been out on the strip. It was like from like 10 to now it's like 7 in the morning. And I'm just like, I'm ready to go home. And he was just like, no, just, you can stay down for a little bit longer, stay down for a little bit longer. And I like, you know, I'm ready to go home. So I caught an attitude. I'm like, I'm ready to go home. Like, I started tripping. And I remember we was in the car on the way home, and my friend was in the back seat at the time. And he was just like, okay. I was looking out the window, and I just recall him like lighting some cigarettes, and then he put the cigarettes out on my arm. And was just like, and then after he did it, was just like, was I hungry? Like he didn't just do what he did. For me, I was just like, then I was just like, okay, I'm not messing with him no more. I'm not talking to him no more. I'm done. Then I stopped talking to him, and it was just like, after I said I wasn't talking to him, he wouldn't leave me alone. One night I seen him on the strip, like, and he chased me, like, literally chased me through the Planet Hollywood, and had a bottle in his hand and was like grabbing me by my hair and was just telling me like he'll bust me in my face with the bottle. And then like punching me over and over multiple times in my face while all his friends stood back and laughed. And my cousin tried to help me, but I was just, you know, telling my cousin like, go, it's okay. Like, I didn't want her to have to, you know, suffer the consequences for my actions. Eventually, I'm like, everybody was like, oh, the only way you're gonna get rid of him is you basically gotta choose up with someone else, and then that person will protect you. And so being stupid and thinking like, okay, I had this guy that just like, he would always reach out to me, trying to be my friend and all this stuff. And then I never knew what he did. But everybody started was like, oh, he's a pimp, he's a pimp. And so I remember we started talking on Facebook. I ended up going to jail, and he reached out to my cousin while I was in jail and just was like, you know, if you had somebody like me in your life, you wouldn't you wouldn't have to deal with this. And so I ended up talking to him. The first time I ever met him, he came and picked me up. He came and picked me up with him and his other girl from my cousin's house. And I remember I went to California. We went to California together to go out there to work. And when we was at the hotel, I remember he was just like, he was laughing and joking, was like, ha ha ha, because I beat females up. And like the other girl was just like, he's serious. And at the time, I'm just like, you know, I'm thinking like, oh, he joking, like, he joking, he not for real. And she just was like, no, like, he really like beat females up. And with him, I was like, I've never felt so degraded. Like I had been called a B so much. It was just like, I felt like I forgot my name. It was always an issue, something like no matter what, it was always a problem. So me and her, which ended up becoming his baby mama, me and her ended up like, you know, started to stick together. And in my mind, I'm like, okay, it's worth it, because I went from making $300, $400 a day to learn how to make $1,000, $10,000, having foreign cars, high-rise condos. So I'm like, in my mind, I'm just like, something temporary became something permanent. And I never understood why people always say, you know, money is the root of all evil, because it's just like, even if you know something is wrong, you look at the materialistic stuff and it's like, in my mind, I was like, I was willing to take the risk for what I was getting. And I stuck around with him for like 3 years. And I remember one of the breaking points of me stop talking to him. I remember his baby mama, she was pregnant, and they got into it about something, and he was like beating her up, and I was sitting there, and his sister was there, and I got up to say something, and his sister was like, don't say nothing, just lay back down, or it's gonna be worse for you. And he had a pit bull dog, and his dog started biting his baby mama boob. And she was just like begging and pleading him, like, can you please get your dog? And he was like, he told her like, I bought him so he can bust him. But for me, I'm just like, okay. And my mom just thinking like, oh, now I'm to the point to where I'm like, if I leave this, how am I gonna maintain the lifestyle that I have now became accustomed to? Just so many different experience. I can recall a time, went on a date with a guy one night. He was a really nice guy, seemed normal. Like, you know, he gave me like $3,000, took me shopping, like nice restaurants, like red bottoms, Louis Vuitton purses, really nice. The second time I went on a date with him, he was staying in the Aria Hotel. And I don't know if he was high or something, but this time he was just completely different. Like, he grabbed me by my hair and threw me on the bed and just started punching me in my face. And just kept biting me until I was like physically bleeding. And all I can recall is just like really just praying to like, God, like if you just get me out of this, like, you know, if you let me out of this, I promise I won't do nothing else. Like, if you just get me out of this, I won't do nothing else. And then room service ended up coming to the door. And when they came to the door, like I ran out the door naked with nothing. I literally felt like I was running for my life. And I know, like, even though I told God, like, oh, if you get me out of this, I promise I wouldn't do it anymore. I still went back because it was just like, I felt like I couldn't depend on anybody. And I'm like, I have to stay strong for my baby. I have to make sure she's okay. And I think like one of the last straws for me was like one of my friends had went out of town on a date and she ended up being killed. The man killed her and stuffed her body in a suitcase and threw it on a beach in Miami. And for me, it was kind of like, you know, that could be me. And one day I was just sitting at home and I'm like, I was in the midst of getting ready to, quote unquote, go to work. And it was just like something in me something just happened, something changed. And I was just like, I can't do this anymore. I was like, this can't be my life, no matter what I lose, no matter what. I was like, I just know there's something more for me, especially I have a little girl who is getting older in age. And so that day I just was like, I promised myself, I was like, no matter what I lose, no matter where I have to start over, I was like, I just couldn't do it anymore. And so I just stopped. I was like, wasn't going out anymore, wasn't doing anything. And my auntie used to come to this church and she invited me one day. And when I came, the first time I sat in the back like everybody do. And then pastor called me up to pray for me. And I'm just like, he told me, he was like, you've done some things that you never thought you would do. He was like, he told me I had set my morals to the side and I was struggling thinking that there was no return for me. And I'm just like, okay, how does this man know all this? He don't know me. And it just made me feel like, okay, maybe God do hear me. Like, you know, maybe this is showing me that there's some hope for me. And I was just like, okay, I'm gonna start trying to study a little bit, get discouraged and stop. And I never forget, like one day, like my Bible fell and it's like, it was on a scripture and it became like my favorite scripture, which is Mark 8:36. It's for what shall a man gain? What should a man profit to gain the whole world but to lose his soul? And for me, that just meant everything, because it was like I had everything: money, cars, clothes, shoes. Was able to do anything, but I was empty on the inside. I felt horrible. I didn't feel like I was worth anything. I didn't feel like nobody would ever be able to love and appreciate me because of everything that I have done. And you start to get a mindset just like, I'll be like, oh, well, I never slept with a married man personally, but professionally I have. And that was something I was ashamed of. And I try to think of it as a job to make myself feel better, of how many people I had robbed and stole from. Then it became, I couldn't get a job because I had been arrested 17 times. I had warrants in other states to where I couldn't get a passport. I could go anywhere I want to in the States, but can't get a passport because I have warrants. And then as I got closer to God, things start to change. Like, I remember I was telling Pastor, like, oh, I got a warrant in Idaho, so I can't go get my fingerprints done and everything. And then Pastor just like, he kept saying like, God gonna work it out, God gonna work it out. I called the lady like, hey, is there something that I could do to get this warrant taken care of? The lady told me like, she was like, no, it's not I'm like, I got frustrated. I'm like, I gave up. Pastor's like, no, just keep calling. Just keep calling. So I called again, like, hey, I have a warrant out here for solicitation, prostitution. The lady was just like, let me check. And then when she checked, she was like, oh, we end up having to throw out the case because there was no evidence of a crime. I was able to get a job. I felt like, oh, I had to give up everything. Like, came a point in time where I was like, I didn't have a place to stay. I was sleeping in my car for a while. And me not wanting to ask people for no help. You know, God placed somebody in my life that opened a door for me and my child. Never made me feel like I was a burden. Never, they pressed me to be able to, like, not to feel like I have to do it by myself. It was hard because I felt like I lost my friends. I lost so many people close to me. But God ended up removing those friends, replacing them with great people that motivate me, who support me, who never make me feel like I'm less than them. They encourage me when I feel like I can't encourage myself. Have stuck in the water with me when I had to go back to school to get my diploma. And just God has truly renewed my mind. I've been able to, because I was such a hard person to where I wouldn't been able to be in a relationship because I didn't like for anybody to tell me anything because of everything I had been through. So I started to confuse leadership for dictatorship. And now that I've been able to see things from a different perspective, I've been able to have somebody come into my life and love me and my daughter like she's their own. And I just want to say, you know, no matter what it is that you've been through, what you're going through, you're able to change. There's gonna be a brighter day. And for me, it motivates me to keep going because I want to be able to help someone else who's been in the same predicament that I have, to be able to see them change and to see their growth. God has truly restored. He has given me peace. He has given me joy. He has given me freedom. He gave me my license, my diploma, my own place in my own name, a good job where most people would say I don't qualify, a man who loves me and my child, amazing friends who have became family, a calmness, a stillness, where I feel like I could truly just rely on him and I don't have to worry about sinking or swimming. Because as long as I know if I have faith and I believe and I rely on his word, that he'll truly make a way out of no way, which he has proven since I've truly gave it all to him. I can sit here today and say, I forgive anybody who's ever talked about me, mistreated me, abused me, anything in an inappropriate way, anytime that I was taken advantage of. I can say I truly do forgive you, and I hope you're able to find the same peace that I have. My name is Brenysha Jimerson, and I overcame prostitution by the blood of the Lamb and the words of my testimony.